I think for years, Canadians got used to, when it came to relations with China, wolf warrior diplomacy, hostage diplomacy. But the tone of that diplomacy has really changed recently. You've written that China is sweet-talking us. What do you mean by that?
Essentially that it's a change in tone, but not a very significant change in substance. But it does matter. It is, when Prime Minister Carney and President Xi talk about it as a turning point, it is in the sense that it's a signal from Xi Jinping on down that it's okay to talk to the Canadians again. And they've essentially been freezing us out for the last several years. That is an important step in progress, which I agree with. But, and there's a big but, that's all happening in the context of a very difficult geopolitical situation where China and Russia are pursuing objectives that are ultimately hostile and problematic to not just Canada, but to all Western democracies.
If you were advising the Canadian government on that, how should they proceed as they look to, rehabilitate this relationship with Beijing?
Canada is looking for means of driving economic growth, probably through trying to sell more commodities and energy and natural resources to China while managing dependency, not becoming too dependent on China in any one of those sectors or areas. The risk now in negotiations is that Canadian politicians, under pressure to try to alleviate the economic pain from the United States, rush into agreements with China that may deliver some economic benefits for Canadians in the short term, but have problematic implications for Canadian sovereignty, for our ability to make our own choices about our future, our freedoms. They want Canada to be silent on things like its aggressive behavior in the South China Sea, on its coercion and slow strangulation of Taiwan, on its support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine, on its transnational repression and other foreign interference activities, not only in Canada but around the world. It wants to essentially buy our acquiescence and silence on that, and that's a very dangerous exchange.
So does this sort of warmer tone from Beijing signal perhaps an end to things like foreign interference in your estimation?
I mean, that's exactly the problem, right? Sure, it's better to have Chinese diplomats saying nice things and Xi Jinping smiling and shaking hands, but there's no evidence that, and there's no likelihood, I think, that the Chinese Communist Party is going to change its playbook, because the purpose of that playbook is to advance China's influence and power around the world.